Imagine a world untouched by steel, gunpowder, or the written word. A vast empire, stretching for thousands of miles along the spine of the Andes Mountains, rich in gold and governed by a living god. This was Tawantinsuyu, the Inca Empire, a marvel of human ingenuity. But in 1532, its fate would be sealed by the arrival of fewer than 200 outsiders, strangers from a world it never knew existed. How did such a tiny force bring down one of the most powerful empires on Earth? This is the story of ambition, betrayal, and the cataclysmic clash of two worlds. In the early 16th century, rumors of a golden kingdom south of Panama tantalized Spanish explorers. These weren't just tales of treasure, they were whispers of a civilization so wealthy it defied imagination. One man became obsessed with these rumors: Francisco Pizarro. A tough, illiterate, and ruthlessly ambitious soldier of fortune, Pizarro had spent most of his life seeking wealth and glory in the New World. He saw the legendary land of Peru as his final, greatest prize. After two failed expeditions, Pizarro returned to Spain and secured a royal license from the king, granting him the authority to conquer this unknown empire for the Spanish crown. He gathered a small but hardened group of adventurers, men as desperate and determined as himself, and set sail for his destiny. As Pizarro and his men landed on the coast of what is now Peru in 1532, they entered an empire in turmoil. The mighty Inca Empire had just emerged from a bloody and devastating civil war. Two half-brothers, Huáscar and Atahualpa, sons of the deceased emperor Huayna Cápac, had fought fiercely for control of the throne. Atahualpa, a brilliant and ruthless military commander, had ultimately triumphed, capturing his brother Huáscar and consolidating his power. As the new undisputed Sapa Inca, or divine emperor, Atahualpa was marching from the northern city of Quito towards the imperial capital of Cusco to formally claim his title. He was at the peak of his power, surrounded by an army of tens of thousands of elite, battle-hardened warriors. When news reached Atahualpa of a small group of strangely dressed bearded men moving inland, he was not alarmed. He was curious. His messengers described their peculiar animals, horses, and their strange thunder sticks. Compared to his immense army, these foreigners seemed insignificant. Atahualpa, confident in his overwhelming numbers and divine authority, decided to allow the strangers to travel unimpeded into the Andes. He arranged to meet them in the mountain city of Cajamarca. In his mind, it was a simple matter of inspecting these oddities and deciding their fate. He had no reason to fear them. What could a handful of men possibly do? On November 15, 1532, Pizarro's tiny force of 168 men entered the eerily empty city of Cajamarca. From the city square, they could see the hillsides covered with the endless tents of Atahualpa's massive army, a sight that filled them with terror. Pizarro knew a conventional battle would be suicide. He needed a plan as audacious as it was desperate. Drawing inspiration from Hernán Cortés's capture of the Aztec Emperor Moctezuma, Pizarro devised a trap. He positioned his men, his cavalry, and his few cannons and arquebuses in hiding around the main square. The plan was to lure Atahualpa into the square and capture him, decapitating the entire Inca state in a single decisive stroke. The next day, November 16th, Atahualpa made his grand entrance into Cajamarca. He was carried on a magnificent golden litter, adorned with feathers and precious metals, accompanied by thousands of his nobles and attendants in a ceremonial procession. They were largely unarmed, viewing this meeting as a display of power, not a confrontation. As they filled the square, a Spanish friar, Vicente de Valverde, approached Atahualpa with a Bible and a cross, demanding he accept Christianity and the authority of the Spanish king. Atahualpa, unfamiliar with books and offended by the demand, took the Bible, examined it, and then threw it to the ground. This was the signal Pizarro was waiting for. "Santiago!" The battle cry echoed as cannons roared and Spanish soldiers charged from their hiding places. The surprise was total and devastating. The sound of gunfire, the sight of armored men on horseback charging into the crowd, and the glint of steel swords created sheer panic. The Incas, trapped in the square's high walls and caught completely off guard, had no chance. The Spanish massacred thousands of the unarmed nobles and attendants in a brutal one-sided slaughter that lasted for hours. In the midst of the chaos, Pizarro himself fought through the crowd to seize Atahualpa, physically protecting him from his own men who sought to kill him. By nightfall, the divine emperor was a prisoner, and the plaza was a horrifying scene of carnage. Realizing his captor's insatiable desire for precious metals, the captive Atahualpa made an incredible offer. In exchange for his freedom, he promised to fill a large room once with gold and twice over with silver. Pizarro agreed. For months, a river of treasure flowed into Cajamarca from all corners of the empire. Golden statues, intricate jewelry, and sacred objects were brought and then melted down into ingots by the Spanish, an act of cultural destruction that forever erased irreplaceable works of Inca art. The sheer volume of wealth was staggering, exceeding even the Spaniards' wildest dreams. Atahualpa fulfilled his side of the bargain, delivering one of the largest ransoms in human history. But freedom would never come. Despite the ransom being paid, the Spaniards saw Atahualpa as too dangerous to release. They feared that once free, he would rally his empire and annihilate them. Pizarro's men, particularly his co-commander Diego de Almagro, who had arrived with reinforcements, clamored for the emperor's execution. Fabricating a list of charges including treason, idolatry, and the murder of his brother Huáscar, the Spanish put Atahualpa on trial. It was a sham. On July 26, 1533, Atahualpa was executed. His death sent a shockwave through the empire. The divine link that held the Inca world together was broken. The body of the empire was now without its head. With Atahualpa gone, the Inca resistance, though fierce in places, became fragmented and uncoordinated. Pizarro installed a puppet emperor and marched his forces toward the heart of the empire, the magnificent capital of Cusco. Aided by native peoples who had been subjugated by the Incas and were eager to overthrow them, the Spanish fought their way south. In November 1533, they entered Cusco, looting its immense riches and solidifying their control. The conquest of the Inca Empire was effectively complete. A civilization that had thrived for centuries was brought to its knees in less than 2 years by a handful of determined conquistadors, a tragic testament to the devastating power of disease, division, and deception. The fall of the Inca Empire was a pivotal moment in world history, a brutal collision of worlds that reshaped a continent forever. It serves as a stark reminder of how quickly even the mightiest empires can crumble. Thank you for joining us on this journey back in time. If you found this story compelling, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next historical documentary. We'll see you in the next one.